Teniola adjusted her blazer and slipped through the wrought iron gates of Eco Heights Academy, her scholarship tag tucked neatly behind her ID card. The school gleamed with manicured lawns and marble columns, an elite fortress nestled in the heart of Lagos. The uniform fit her awkwardly, a bit too loose in the shoulders, a bit too crisp to feel like home. She kept her eyes low as clusters of students exchanged air kisses and laughter about private drivers, designer shoes, and weekend yacht parties. None of it belonged to her world. Inside the library's farthest corner, her sanctuary, Teniola pulled out her special blue journal, worn at the edges but sacred. It held the words of a dozen fake hearts. She didn't mean for it to start like this. The first time was an accident. Boma, the queen bee of her dorm, sobbing in frustration over how to impress her new crush. Teniola had scribbled a few lines out of pity, and by morning Boma's crush was hooked. Word spread quickly and the Journal of Secrets grew, each letter paid in data top-ups, extra lunch tokens, or even cash tucked into borrowed novels. But with each commission, Teniola's name faded from her own story. She watched from the shadows as her words stirred hearts and formed relationships. Her work was invisible, deliberately so. She was the ghost behind every grand confession passed during prep or slipped into lockers. It was a dangerous game, one built on precision and silence. Her grades remained perfect, her curfew untouched, her face neutral. But that balance was fragile and someone, was about to crack it wide open. Teniola was halfway through rewriting a poem for a senior girl named Adesawa when she heard his voice. Deep, smooth, and with a casual arrogance that made her glance up. He was standing in the library aisle, flipping through a book on romantic poetry, his brows slightly furrowed. Ikinalu Williams. Prefect, football star, and the golden boy of SS2. His name came up often in requests. Girls wanting letters tailored to his moods, his style, his rumored love for Neruda and Nigerian classics. But this was the first time Teniola had seen him up close. Their eyes met for just a second. It was nothing. Everything. She dropped her pen and cursed herself internally. He probably didn't even notice her. People like him didn't see people like her. She looked back at her journal, but her hand was trembling. That night, she found herself rewriting one of her old love letters, changing the name, the voice, the rhythm, until it sounded like something she would send to him. For once, it wasn't for money. It was for her. The letter stayed in her journal, hidden. She hated how her heart fluttered when his name was mentioned the next day in the cafeteria. She hated that she noticed when he switched his cologne. But most of all, she hated that she, the invisible ghostwriter, was falling for her own fiction. Akinalu approached her during prep. "You're Tenny, right? Boma says you're good with words." Teniola froze. He was even taller up close, skin smooth like carved ebony, with a quick, crooked smile that could melt steel. "I need help with a letter. For someone. Can you do that?" She nodded stiffly, trying to hide the storm swirling inside her. Of all people, it had to be him. He slid a crumpled note toward her with rough details. The girl was in SS1. Her name was Toke. He wasn't sure what to say. "Just something real, you know," he said. "Nothing fake." Teniola nodded again, though her throat was dry. That night, her pen betrayed her. She wrote from her own heart, lacing the words with honesty and longing she could never admit. It was a letter from her to him, hidden in plain sight. A week later, Akinalu returned. She said it made her cry. In a good way. "You're really good at this." He handed her a chilled malt drink and a thank you smile. Teniola accepted both, but her insides twisted. She had given him a piece of her soul, and he had gifted it to someone else. Teniola's name was never mentioned, but her popularity soared. Word of mouth worked faster than school gossip blogs. Girls in satin bonnets and boys with Rolex dreams now sought her out with folded notes and giggles. She had a system, anonymous drop-offs, late-night pickups, and a tight control over tone and grammar. No one suspected the true depth of her involvement. No one asked questions. But secrets have a way of whispering louder than truth. Adesawa, who had used Teniola's services before, raised a brow during biology class. "You're too quiet, Tenny. Makes people curious." Teniola just smiled and focused on her notes, but her heart beat faster. She knew the power of words. She also knew the danger of being found out. Then came another request from Akinalu. "Something light this time," he said, leaning against her desk. "A joke, a memory, maybe a promise." Teniola nodded, her heart sinking. She was writing his relationship into existence, carving her own heartbreak line by line. Her latest letter was a lyrical masterpiece. It compared Toke's smile to Lagos sunsets and promised stargazing after graduation. But as Teniola wrote, tears stained the edge of her paper. She was too good at this. Too convincing. Ikinalu was falling for a fantasy. One that looked like Toke but sounded like her. And the more he smiled, the more it hurt. Late one night, while everyone slept, she reread the first letter she'd ever written for him. The one she had never delivered. It was raw, imperfect, and full of longing. A secret monument to what she could never say aloud. She folded it, placed it in a purple envelope, and tucked it behind her pillow. Just in case. What she didn't know was that her roommate F had been watching. F, who was always 3 steps ahead of drama. F, who never minded her business when things got interesting. F was clever. She didn't ask questions. She just watched. When she found the purple envelope, she didn't open it. She didn't have to. She recognized the handwriting from all the times she accidentally bumped into letters being passed in class. Teniola's secret wasn't safe anymore. And in a school like Eco Heights, secrets were currency. By morning, the envelope was gone. Teniola noticed immediately and panicked. Her search led her to the common room bulletin board. A purple envelope had been pinned in the center, unopened but very visible, under the heading, "Guess the Secret Admirer." Laughter echoed through the halls. A game. A trap. A knife to the chest. She pulled it down and ran. Her world spun. Her safe corner, the one built of letters and lies, was no longer silent. The whisper campaign began. She's obsessed with Akin. She writes everyone's love letters. Didn't she kiss up to Adesawa too? Every class she entered fell silent. Eyes followed her like shadows. Teniola's grades remained perfect, but her invisibility was gone. The ghost had been dragged into daylight. Akinalu approached her again, but this time his smile was cautious. "Was that really you?" he asked, holding the purple envelope. She couldn't speak. He looked hurt, more confused than angry. "You should have just said something." "Said what?" "That she was in love with a boy who never saw her? That every word he treasured was a stolen piece of her own soul?" Adesawa cornered her in the hallway. "You wrote for me. For Boma. For Toke. You used us." Teniola stared back, too exhausted to argue. "You paid me," she said quietly. "You knew what it was." But the words felt thin. The entire school now saw her as a manipulator, a fraud, a thief of emotions. Only F said nothing. She simply handed Teniola a note one night under her pillow. "You're not wrong. You're just tired. Fight back." That was the night Teniola decided she wouldn't cry anymore. Teniola stopped writing. Cold turkey. She deleted drafts, tore up old letters, and refused new commissions. Boma begged. One boy offered 5,000 Nigerian nairas. Even Adesawa slipped a folded note into her locker with an apology scribbled inside. But she held firm. Her words were her own now. Her silence echoed louder than her poetry. But Akinalu wasn't silent. He left a letter in her favorite book in the library. It read, "I miss the letters. I miss you. I think I always knew." She read it 3 times before pressing it against her chest. School administration got involved. A parent complained about emotional misconduct and manipulation among students. Teniola was summoned. The headmistress, tall and stern, flipped through a stack of anonymous letters. "Did you write these?" she asked. Teniola nodded. "Why?" Her voice shook. "Because I needed the money. Because they asked. Because it made people happy. Because I didn't know how to be seen without them." There was silence. "Then, you're suspended. 2 weeks." At home, her parents were disappointed. They had fought for her scholarship. Her mother cried quietly in the kitchen. Her father said nothing for 2 days. Her younger brother offered her a biscuit. "I think you're cool," he whispered. It was the only comfort she allowed herself. She stayed in her room rewriting poems that no one would ever read. She didn't touch her journal. She watched the walls. She waited for her heart to stop hurting. Then a knock came at the door. It was Akinalu. He stood awkwardly holding a bag of books and a mango smoothie. "You never told me why you wrote for me," he said. "Or why it hurt so much when you stopped." Teniola didn't invite him in, but she stepped outside. They sat on the stoop. "You weren't supposed to know," she said. "None of this was supposed to be real." He handed her a folded piece of paper. His own handwriting. "Then let's make something real." Returning to school was harder than she expected. Some classmates nodded politely. Others ignored her. The whispers had dulled, but the memory of them clung like dust. But Akinalu walked beside her in the hallway. That changed everything. Together, they submitted a piece to the national writing competition, credited to both of them. Their entry was raw, vulnerable, and honest. It was called The voice behind the curtain. It went viral. Media attention followed. Interviews, mentions in local papers. The girl who wrote love. Teniola hated it at first. Then, slowly she embraced it. Her voice mattered now. Not just her letters. Her name. She was invited to perform spoken word at an art showcase. Akinalu sat in the front row, grinning wide, mouthing her verses before she even said them. On the school rooftop, under a rare starry Lagos night, Akinalu took her hand. I don't want words you wrote for someone else. Just yours. For me. Teniola smiled. Then you'll have to earn them. He leaned forward. Challenge accepted. With fame came tension. Adesawa and Boma, once icy, now tried to inch back into Teniola's orbit. You should leverage this, Boma said one afternoon, sliding beside her during lunch. Start a real business. Ghostwriting with a face. But Teniola had grown. She didn't want to hide behind anonymity anymore. Her words had value, but so did her truth. Even F began acting distant. So now you're famous, she said one evening, her voice flat. Did you forget who put your letter on the wall? Teniola paused. You exposed me. F's eyes narrowed. I set you free. Friendships were shifting like sand. But Teniola had found her anchor, in herself and slowly in Akinalu. An elite university in the U.S. reached out after seeing the article on Teniola's writing. They wanted her to apply for a creative writing scholarship. Full ride. It felt surreal. Her parents cried this time for joy. Her brother danced. Her heart? Torn. She had always dreamed of escape. But now that it was real, everything she had built here felt more precious. The school, the chaos, the whispers, even the rooftop where Akinalu kissed her the night before midterms. How do you say goodbye to the boy who made your words come alive? She wrote in her notebook. The question hung unanswered. Teniola started writing again, but this time under her real name. No secrets, no swaps. Just her truth. The final piece she submitted before graduation was titled, Letter to the Boy I Almost Never Met. It was published in a national youth journal. Students read it aloud during assembly. Akinalu didn't say a word, but his eyes were glassy. Later that night, she handed him the original purple envelope. This was the first, she said. Unedited. For you. He didn't open it. I already know what it says, he whispered, pulling her close. Graduation came like a blur. Flashing cameras, applause, proud parents. Teniola gave the valedictory speech. She spoke of finding voice through silence. Of writing to be heard. Of loving people who may never truly know you, but choosing to be known anyway. When she stepped down from the podium, the entire hall stood. Not because of the grades. Not because of the scholarship. But because her voice finally belonged to her. That night, Akinalu walked her to the school gate. Don't wait for me, he said. Fly. I'll catch up one day. She smiled, tears brimming. You better write. In a small dorm room on a snowy campus in New York, Teniola pinned a letter to her wall. It was her own. A copy of the first real poem she'd ever sent to a publisher. She was now a name in print, a voice in classrooms, a memory across continents. She and Akinalu exchanged monthly letters, real ones with stamps and ink. No more ghostwriting. Just two people building something one sentence at a time. Her latest read, Still Waiting Under the Stars. Don't forget who taught me how to speak. She wrote back, Still flying. Don't forget who gave me the sky. And so, the girl who once hid behind other people's love stories began to live her own, on paper and in the light.